You are a little idiot.
I'm the king of poorly timed video topics. The Suicide Squad has come and gone, it's done, it's dead. The Marvel shows have Thanos snapped away in an anticlimax like a fart in the wind. The topics going around an algorithm, whoa, stand back, the hole in my garden is going to be coming in clutch when the topic's all bloated and old. Like the nastiest hooker in Vegas. But secondary to the oldest profession in the world is the oldest and most tired conversation in all of YouTube film criticism. That being making videos on superhero properties. I could make video 287 on why BVS is shit. Or good, I guess. Or I could beat the dead horse with a crowbar some more until it coughs up another video on Spider-Man. But let's be real, it's tired. Those videos are boring. Superhero movies are beginning to blend now, and the fatigue is setting in. I don't know about you guys, but ever since 2019, I've gradually been getting less and less impressed by what's being put out into the genre. But don't worry, I'm not gonna sit here with my beret and wine, staring at my poster of Taxi Driver that I keep on me at all times. Superhero movies are not cinema, and anyone who watches them has clearly proven themselves to be a pitiful intellect, style, and class. No. I love seeing a purple alien punching people, or a mentally ill man in a bat costume kill people. It's amazing. What I am saying though, is that if you rinse and repeat the same formula, eventually it gets boring. Marvel was building a cinematic universe and heading towards some kind of conclusion, a big two-parter in the works for around 11 years. Characters died, shit changed, and moments were paid off, but once you peak as high as the MCU did, ending a saga in such a satisfying way, where do you go from there? DC never really had a chance with their cinematic universe, but they seem to catch on that doing the same as their competitors is not a viable strategy. So we got two studios, two rivals, battling for audience attention, and that's what I want to talk about today. Marvel right now knows that their audience is getting tired of the same shit day in, day out. They know in order to sustain the MCU, they need to throw some crazy and new stuff in there to keep it going. Enter the Disney Plus shows. Wandavision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. Each are continuations of things from the MCU we like. We love Captain America. Fan camp people love Loki because, oh my god, Tom Hiddleston goes so beast mode, he's so buff and hot, I love him so much. WandaVision is, well, people like Quicksilver, I guess. Point being, they're each continuation of stuff we're familiar with, characters we like and have the ambition to be something new. WandaVision on paper is a character study about the process of grief. Falcon and the Winter Soldier on paper is about America's social issues and global policy. Loki is trying to open up the multiverse and subsequently the MCU. All three of these struggle at doing all this because, surprise surprise, they're all dog shit.
Fuck you!
Okay. Let me rephrase. They're not terrible, they're interesting for the first couple of episodes, but quickly they succumb to either lazy, messy writing or desperation to not lose their audience. WandaVision was good for the first few episodes until they panicked and realised they had to make it a Marvel movie so their test audiences wouldn't get bored. Falcon and the Winter Soldier drops its social commentary like a hat whenever it wants, and it's extremely surface level to begin with. And Loki has some of the most inconsistent character writing I've seen in a while, and it doesn't take nearly as much advantage of their premise as they should, only giving it like one episode. I mean, come on, are you serious? But I'm not doing reviews here of all the shows because I don't care. I really couldn't give a fuck talking about how Loki was shit. This is to establish a baseline. When the MCU tries to do something new, they backtrack or go back to relying on what's gotten them to where they are. Now, on the opposite end, we got DC. Stop! No, I'm not trying to say DC is better than Marvel in this video. I mean, do I have bias towards DC? Yes, absolutely. I grew up on DC and I always prefer their characters to Marvel. Batman, he goes beast mode and kicks everyone's ass. Meanwhile, Iron Man goes drunk mode and gets his ass handed to him. But I'm not going to erase facts. Marvel beat DC. The MCU came in swinging with a plan and a visionary behind it, trying to pull off an idea that had never been done on the scale they wanted. The DCEU came in by stumbling through the door and slipping on a banana peel, landing in a puddle of piss, with two very divisive films and one incredibly shit one.
We're the Suicide Squad.
The DCEU is still sort of going today, but all hope of an interconnected and cohesive cinematic universe is gone. Right now, DC has the approach of throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, and whilst that might sound like a lame strategy in comparison to the moves Marvel is currently pulling, I find DC's don't give a fuck attitude to be a breath of fresh air. Warner Bros. Nowadays lets their filmmakers do whatever they want, for better or for worse. As stated earlier, Marvel beat them. The dream and aspirations of a Warner executive creating a cinematic universe to rival Marvel died, and a part of me is definitely sad about that. DC Comics has the makings for an intricate and cool cinematic universe with so many characters they could translate into an expansive story like the MCU. But I ain't even mad, because as much as I like lore and canon, I also like not having to do homework before I watch something. And beyond that, I like seeing stuff made by an individual with a personality. Marvel is a studio so committed to creating a consistent universe that they mostly neglect letting the filmmakers be expressive in their filmmaking. And whilst this is something they've improved upon lately, it's something they still have an issue with. Marvel, or more accurately Disney, can never really be hands off. They're a huge company and Marvel is a huge franchise that needs to have broad appeal. You'll never see an R-rated Marvel movie because that's not their brand. You won't get a grim character study because mainstream audiences don't find that appealing. The benefit of DC having nobody give a fuck about consistency is that they can afford to be experimental. They can afford to let a director or a writer take a risk. I'll be honest, if you give me the choice between watching a bad DCEU film like Wonder Woman 1984 or a bad MCU film, I'll choose Wonder Woman 1984 anytime. Because as bad as that movie is, fuck me, is it entertaining. Compare that to For the Dark World and I mean, yeah, it's not terrible, but it is unbearably boring and feels bland as all hell, completely lacking any direction from an individual. I've said this in various videos before, but I firmly believe no matter what, if you let somebody take the reins on a project, it will always be infinitely superior compared to anything made by a committee or a cobbled together mess like some kind of Frankenstein's monster. And yes, that is including films that are shit. A crap film with a vision is always going to be more interesting than a shit film that had too many cooks, that the broth began to grow into mold long before it left the kitchen. Let's use Birds of Prey as an example for DC's side. Now I personally like Birds of Prey, but I'd be lying if I said that that film didn't have issues and that people are wrong for disliking it, because it is a very flawed film. But at the very least, I'd say it's deserving of respect, even if you dislike its approach. The director was given free rein to do what she wanted, and as a result, the film is bursting at the seams with personality and flair. Joker was pretty much completely from the mind of Todd Phillips, and when you really break it down, a film about Batman's #1 nemesis with no Batman isn't exactly the most lucrative film concept, especially when it's meant to be a Scorsese-inspired character study. Say what you will about the Snyder Cut and Zack Snyder as a director, but that film is that man's vision, evil, rocks, space, warlords and all. With The Suicide Squad, James Gunn was given free rein to do whatever the hell he wanted, to take risks, to be experimental, and to implement characters that nobody that has had sex has ever heard of. Yeah, fuck Killer Croc, we're getting King Shark up in here.
And
Even looking at their TV shows, DC is doing something unique. Titans looks like an edgy mess, but even I'd admit its approach definitely sparks interest. Doom Patrol is one of the best superhero shows I've ever seen, focused around broken people and how they come to terms with who they are, what they've done, and how they can mend the bridges they've broken. Even if you're the biggest fan of the Marvel Disney Plus shows, you have to admit that however different they may initially seem, eventually they just become more of the same thing we've seen before. Wandavision would have been far better if their focus was on the sitcom and character study elements and not the setting up of eventual characters, movies, and events. I care about Wanda's grief. I don't care about her fighting another witch in the sky. If I wanted a bedtime story, I would have watched Black Widow. DC really doesn't give a shit. Titans and Doom Patrol aren't even in the same continuity as the DCEU. Joker is in its own continuity, and as far as we know, the new Batman film is also trying to do its own thing. Marvel is setting up a Hawkeye show, which is to set up a Young Avengers film and serve only as chump change for the 4 Hawkeye fans in the world. They're also making a TV show about War Machine. That wasn't a fake yawn, I was actually tired. But a Don Cheadle show doesn't help boost my adrenaline, not gonna lie.
that doesn't matter at all. What matters is that I win this.
DC is making a Peacemaker show. Fucking Peacemaker! A character nobody gives a fuck about, being headed by an incredibly creative filmmaker and a charismatic actor, both of which have proven they can elevate the source material they use. What have Jeremy Renner and Don Cheadle got on John Cena? The answer is nothing. They both suck. DC has me interested. They've proven that they're willing to take risks and willing to experiment. Marvel aren't big risk takers. The way things are going right now, DC is going to rise creatively speaking, all the while Marvel is going to be clinging for dear life onto things we know until the well has dried up. But who knows, there's almost certainly a high chance that this video will age poorly, in which case I will make a follow-up video to cover my ass to ensure this video isn't used against me. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm trying to experiment a lot more now with a different writing style, which I hope some of you enjoyed from this video and the last. I also got a new microphone, so if you heard a difference in audio, that's probably why. I've never really been good with outros, so I have a Discord and a Twitter. Links to both of those are in the description. That's all for now. See ya.